There is a specific invisible threshold where corporate negligence transforms from a mild, bureaucratic inconvenience into a direct declaration of war. For most people, it's a missed flight or a ruined vacation. For me, that line was drawn directly through my 9-year-old son's belief in Santa Claus. When you are a parent, you are the custodian of magic. When you are a parent surviving on a fixed disability income, that magic requires military-level financial planning. So when a monolithic sporting goods retailer decided to stick my family with a hidden fee, effectively holding a Christmas present hostage, they didn't just make an administrative error. They picked a fight with a man who had absolute patience, an internet connection, and absolutely nothing to lose. The frost was thick on the windows of our Dublin home when the digital chime of my wife's phone shattered the quiet of a Tuesday morning. Orlaith stared at the glowing screen, her brow furrowing. It was an SMS from a highly recognizable, brown-uniformed courier company. The message was sterile, demanding an immediate payment of nearly €50 for customs clearance on an inbound package. At first, we brushed it off as a phishing scam. The internet is a swamp of fake delivery links, especially in December. We had meticulously budgeted for Fion's presents, purchasing his main gift, a heavy-duty football rebounder, weeks prior. We bought it directly from the Irish domain of a massive UK-based sports retail empire, a company with brick-and-mortar stores sitting in half the shopping centers in our republic. The transaction had been seamless. In the cart, the total was final. We paid, received our confirmation, and considered the matter closed. But as Orlaith logged into the courier's official portal just to be safe, the tracking number matched a legitimate shipment. The origin point wasn't a local warehouse, it was the United Kingdom. They shipped it cross-border, Orlaith said, the realization settling like a stone in the room. They handed it off to a local carrier in the UK who passed it to the brown uniforms for the sea crossing. And now they want import duties. €50. To a corporate executive, €50 is a mediocre lunch. To a household managing 2 disabilities on a fixed state income, €50 is a crater in the weekly grocery budget. The injustice of it was a sharp, metallic taste in the back of my mouth. But the calendar was merciless. Christmas was breathing down our necks. Pay it, I told her, exhaling a long, measured breath. Pay the ransom so Fionn gets his rebounder. But leave the retailer to me. My first foray into their customer service ecosystem was an exercise in auditory torture. I dialed the toll-free number and was immediately swallowed by an automated labyrinth. When the hold music finally kicked in, it was a compressed, tinny loop of acoustic guitar that sounded like it was being played underwater. I sat in my worn armchair, the phone pressed to my ear, watching the digital clock on the mantel tick away 20 minutes. Then 30, I know the soul-crushing reality of call centers. I spent years in the trenches wearing a headset, absorbing the misdirected rage of strangers. Because of that, when a representative finally clicked on the line, I kept my voice devoid of malice. I explained the situation calmly. An Irish website, a final checkout screen with no mention of delivery duty unpaid, and a sudden €50 hostage situation. The rep offered sympathetic noises and promised a manager would call me back by the end of the business day. The phone never rang. Day 2 was a carbon copy of day 1. A different representative, the same underwater guitar, the same hollow promise of a managerial callback. The corporate strategy was obvious: attrition. They assumed I would simply tire out, absorb the financial hit, and fade away into the festive static. By day 3, the polite, understanding former call center employee version of me was dead and buried. I dialed the number. The hold time stretched to 45 minutes. When the line finally clicked, a representative named Cedric answered, his voice dripping with the kind of practiced indifference that comes from reading a script 50 times a day. I didn't bother with the pleasantries. I laid out the facts with surgical precision. Under Irish and European consumer law, a buyer must be explicitly informed of any additional charges, at the very latest, by the final checkout screen. I had just replicated the exact purchase on my laptop. I put the rebounder in my digital basket, navigated past the shipping options, and stared at the final payment screen. There is absolutely nothing on this page indicating import duties, I told Cedric, the rhythmic clacking of my keyboard backing up my claim. I want my €50 refunded. You are in direct violation of consumer rights. Cedric sighed, the sound of a man who wished he was anywhere else. I understand your frustration, sir. As a courtesy, I can offer you a €20 gift voucher to use on your next purchase with us. I blinked, staring at the frosted window panes. A voucher to spend more money at the very establishment currently robbing me. I don't want a voucher, Cedric. I want the cash your company illegally forced me to pay to release my son's property. Sir, Cedric replied, his tone shifting into the rigid cadence of corporate policy. We advise our customers that there may be DDU charges on any item that gets shipped outside of the UK. Oh really? I leaned forward, the trap snapping shut. Where exactly do you advise them of this? Where on the transaction does it state this information? Silence stretched across the line, 10 seconds, 15. Cedric faltered, the script failing him. I don't actually know. Well, I know one thing, I said, my voice dropping to a low, glacial calm. It doesn't say it anywhere, because I've checked. I am giving your company one last chance to rectify this violation. You have exactly 60 minutes to have a senior manager call this number. If my phone does not ring in 1 hour, I am taking this to LinkedIn, and I am going to publicly tag every single senior officer in your corporate hierarchy. I terminated the call. I set the phone on the coffee table. I watched the clock. 60 minutes came and went. The silence in the living room was absolute. They thought I was bluffing. They thought I was just another disgruntled consumer shouting into the void. They fundamentally misunderstood the destructive capability of a man who understands the architecture of professional networking. I opened my laptop and navigated to LinkedIn. I didn't write a rant. Rants are easily dismissed as unhinged. I wrote a dossier. I drafted a meticulously structured post detailing the timeline, the hidden charges, the ghosted callbacks, and the blatant violation of consumer protection laws. I highlighted the cruelty of deploying these deceptive practices against families during a cost-of-living crisis at Christmas. Then, I went hunting. I searched the company's employee roster. I didn't bother with the customer service managers. I aimed for the stratosphere. I tagged the regional directors for Europe. I tagged the vice president of e-commerce. I tagged the chief financial officer. I tagged the chief executive officer. I linked their profiles directly into the text, ensuring that every time someone engaged with the post, an unignorable notification would ping on the mobile phones of the people controlling a £58 million empire. I clicked publish and I went to make a cup of tea. An hour later, I refreshed my browser. The post was gaining traction. Other consumers were chiming in with their own horror stories. But it was what the company did next that truly solidified my absolute contempt for them. I opened a new tab and navigated to their website, searching for the rebounder just to double-check my previous findings. Error 404, page not found. They had scrubbed the item from the site. Someone in their digital department had panicked, attempting to bury the evidence of their non-compliant checkout process. It was a digital cover-up, executed with all the grace of a toddler hiding behind a sheer curtain. They assumed I was a technological illiterate. They were wrong. I opened Google and typed in the exact URL of the missing product page, appending the command for the cached version. Instantly, the ghost of the internet materialized. A snapshot of their website from 48 hours prior loaded perfectly on my screen, happily displaying the rebounder, the price, and the complete absence of any customs warnings. I took a high-resolution screenshot. I returned to my LinkedIn post and added a comment. Update. It appears the company is now attempting to delete the product page to hide their illegal checkout process. Unfortunately for them, the internet remembers. I attached the screenshot of the 404 error side by side with the cached page. I retagged the CEO. I retagged the VP of e-commerce. I added a little note mocking their digital incompetence, questioning the ethics of a board of directors that sanctions cover-ups rather than customer care. The notification bell on my profile began to light up. Among the likes and outraged comments, I noticed something else in my analytics dashboard. 3 individuals operating in incognito mode had just viewed my profile. Corporate spies peering over the digital fence. I smiled. I took a screenshot of the analytics page showing the 3 mysterious visitors. I dropped it into a second comment on my post. Welcome to the 3 anonymous executives currently monitoring my profile. Instead of hiding in incognito mode, perhaps you could find the courage to pick up a telephone. The digital siege lasted through the night. When the sun broke over the Dublin skyline the following morning, casting a pale light across the frost-covered grass, my phone finally rang. The caller ID displayed a UK country code. I answered, letting out a measured hello. Mr. Tadg, the voice on the other end was polished, feminine, and tightly wound with the specific kind of anxiety reserved for public relations disasters. My name is Arabella. I am a senior executive director at the head office. I am calling regarding your recent online communications. Good morning, Arabella, I said, leaning back in my chair. I want to offer my most profound, sincere apologies on behalf of the entire organization, she continued, the words spilling out like water from a breached dam. The way your case has been handled is completely unacceptable. The lack of transparency regarding the DDU charges falls far below our standards, and the failure of our team to return your calls is inexcusable. I am personally taking over your case. Please tell me what I can do to make this right. It was a total capitulation. The bootlicking tone was almost disorienting after 3 days of bureaucratic stonewalling. Arabella, I said softly. 3 days ago I wanted €50. I wanted the money you unlawfully forced my wife to pay. I spent hours on hold. I was ignored. I was offered a pathetic €20 voucher. I was forced to wage a public relations campaign just to get someone to recognize my existence. I let the silence hang, letting her absorb the gravity of their miscalculation. Because you forced me to go to these lengths, I continued, my voice hardening into steel, the price of peace has gone up. I want the €50 customs charge refunded directly to my PayPal account. I want a full 100% refund for the original purchase price of the rebounder. And I am keeping the product. That is the only way this ends, and the only way that post comes down. Arabella didn't hesitate. There was no negotiation, no corporate pushback. I understand completely, she said quickly. Please give me 2 hours to process the authorizations. You have one, I replied and ended the call. 52 minutes later, my phone vibrated. It was an alert from PayPal. A direct transfer of €50 had cleared. 2 minutes after that, a second email arrived from the retailer's payment gateway, a full refund for the heavy-duty rebounder. My phone rang. It was Arabella. The funds have been transferred, sir, she said, sounding utterly exhausted. The product is yours to keep with our deepest apologies. Is there anything else? No, Arabella. That will be all. I closed my laptop. I walked into the kitchen where Orlaith was pouring a cup of tea. I showed her the screen. The money was back in our account, and the cornerstone of Fion's Christmas was sitting safely in the hallway, completely free of charge. I had taken on a £58 million corporate leviathan, and I had broken them over my knee. There is a profound lesson buried in the absurdity of this modern corporate warfare. Companies operate on the assumption of your exhaustion. They build labyrinths of hold music, automated menus, and indifferent scripts designed to wear down your resolve. They rely on the statistical probability that you will simply give up. Never give up. Never accept the €20 voucher when they owe you justice. Your time, your money, and your dignity are not acceptable casualties for their profit margins. Consumer rights exist for a reason, but they are only as strong as the people willing to enforce them. I might be just one disabled father operating out of a small house in Ireland, but I proved that the right amount of leverage, applied precisely to the fragile ego of corporate management, can move mountains. My son's view of the world, and his belief in the magic of Christmas, is infinitely more valuable than the stock price of an unethical retail chain. If you've ever had to take on a corporate Goliath and won, or if you just love watching corrupt companies get publicly dismantled, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment below with your worst customer service nightmare and let me know how you handled it. Until next time, keep your receipts, know your rights, and never let them walk all over you.